Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to the channel. In this video, we're going to break down loads of stuff. We've actually got the reaction to quick play, quicker play, which has been, it looks like a bit of a disaster. Although I want to show you guys some gameplay and kind of talk about this because I think it's really interesting. But we are going to look at some community reaction here because this isn't really Overwatch. It's really weird. We're also going to talk about Aaron Keller actually adding a bit more information or trying to sort of calm people down after the announcement, the huge announcement yesterday, that they are going to add a self-heal passive to every single hero in the game. Although for tanks and DPS, it won't be as powerful as support. But yeah, the way that they announced that, it just sounded ridiculous. So he's trying to sort of put out the flames there, but we will go over that. And we will, again, look at some reaction. Because I think when you go down the path of having a passive like that in the game, especially on, let's just focus on DPS heroes for a moment, there becomes an issue where some heroes are kind of designed not to heal themselves. So if everyone can heal themselves, some heroes are going to get really strong, right? What about Tracer? What about Sombra? They're just going to start going crazy. Reaper is another one. Even tanks. What about Wrecking Ball? That's going to be a pretty good passive for Wrecking Ball, isn't it? Anyway, there's also Alec Dawson, the lead balance dev, talks about the mid-season patch and what that's actually done to the game. So there's loads to cover in this video, guys. So let's get stuck into it. And I think the first place to start is with this quicker play. Now, I want to show you guys some gameplay here. So this is me playing Junkrat in the quicker play mode. And I'm just going to play while we just do a little quick sort of chat about this. So there are some pros and cons here, right? So this is obviously a hybrid map. It's Blizzard World, and I'm playing Junkrat. Now, this phase of the game here is actually, this is kind of better than it was in previous quick play, simply because when an enemy dies, they can regroup quicker. And we've all been there in this game mode, even in Assault. On this map, I should say, not this game mode specifically. But when you lose a player and then you've got to wait to regroup and people get restless and they want to sort of peek and they get killed and then there's just endless trickling and it's super annoying. Faster respawns actually fixes that because you respawn faster, way faster, and then, yeah, you can have another fight. So on paper, that seems really good. And also, it reduces the downtime of the defenders. Because look, the Doomfist, I just killed the guy, but he's back already and we're having another fight. But if you look at the kill feed now, we're starting to lose players. And this is where things get problematic. So I think I can kill the Doomfist. But obviously, I can't. I've been absolutely annihilated. I've been killed by the Sojourn. Probably railgunned me, then hit me with the E. But look at this. Instant respawn. So I'm a bit shocked. I'm like, whoa, wasn't ready for that. But look at the capture progress. And look at our team here. So because we had the faster respawns, we actually have regrouped together here. And we could have contested that if it was the old quick play. But it's not. This is the quicker play. So we don't get a chance to contest. Now, there's a whole load of issues with this because that's what Overwatch is about, right? That moment of, you know, they've now become the defenders and they need to defend our attack and it's our last-ditch moment. And that's what creates those moments of like, oh my God, what an awesome play. What a great ult. But it just doesn't exist in this mode because it's just way too fast. And it really, honestly, makes a bit of a mockery of Overwatch, I think. And it doesn't feel like the Overwatch game, well, we should be playing. Anyway, in terms of this video, I think I'll do a cheesy ult. I might do two, actually. Yeah, a cheesy ult. You got to love Junkrat ults. Look at this. Flying in from the top ropes and just popping the ult in the enemy team. They never expect it. They never expect it. Also, I think I do one at the end, and I'm saved by my Ramatra. Yeah, my Ramatra saves me here. Because watch for his barrier. So I just go in thinking, oh, it's the end of the game. They use their Torble, but look at that barrier. That is absolutely clutch because I nearly got shot in the head there. That was super clutch there by our Ramatra. Anyway, yeah, that's some of my very quick sort of feelings on it, especially in hybrid. Because remember, you know, the payload would move quicker as well and capture points are faster. Everything's faster. And I think it's honestly a bit hard for Blizzard to just... Well, I think it's a bit hard for Blizzard to get good data when everything is just this stupidly fast. Because you can see here, Sombra hacked quick play for the weekend, which I think is a cool concept. But then faster payloads and the bots run faster in push, faster control point capture speeds, faster respawns, and shorter rounds. Yeah, maybe there's some things we can take away from this, but I don't know. Anyway, this is the other thing people have been asking for. So I've seen this over on, obviously on Reddit, and, you know, this post says, bro, if they want to do changes like these, bring back experimental. Now, the reason why this wouldn't work really in experimental is because nobody plays experimental when compared to the massive player base of quick play. We know that the executive producer has said quick play is the most played mode. So it's a bit crazy to me that they've gone in and just massively changed all of it. And then they're just expecting people to just be happy with that. It's too much, too fast, basically. Literally, I guess. But experimental, the issue with it is if you've got the experimental card, I mean, we had this back in the past, you'd only play it for a few games. You wouldn't really go in there and play experimental over and over and over again, because that's the way the game had to be played, or could only be played. You just jump in, go, okay, whatever, back to quick play or back to comp. Now, there is one side effect to this, not having a quick experimental, sorry. It's because they've changed quick play so drastically. The only way to really get the quick play rule set is to play competitive. I know it's attack and defend, but essentially you've got the old balance, right? The only other way is to start a custom game with the quick play rule set, which of course nobody's going to do. So experimental, good on paper, and I think this is probably like one of the philosophies of the old development team, where it was like, quick play is holy and we're not going to mess up quick play, but we are going to bring in another mode where we can test stuff out. It's a more structured way of doing it, whereas this current dev team are just sort of like, they're just going in, they're going in deep, they're like, whatever, just deal with it. So yeah, there's a lot of ways of looking at this. So what I want to do now is jump over to Reddit. So this is over on, we're still on our Overwatch, and this is a post which basically says quicker play sucks. Great feedback there, but some of the comments are pretty good. Like, look at this. The only good thing I can say about it is if I'm being steamrolled and lose really badly, the game is over quick. No one likes to sit in a game that's clearly lost, and there's been a lot of discussion recently about a surrender button in Overwatch 2, which I'm not a fan of, because the thing with Overwatch is you can always bring it sort of back from the brink. This isn't like League of Legends, this isn't like Dota, where you're just getting steamrolled and they've got such a massive gold lead, a massive item lead or whatever, and you're just like, you cannot win. In Overwatch, you can, right? There's always that chance to come back, so I'm not the biggest fan of this, but I completely understand being stuck in a frustrating game. So, that again is one of the positives you could take from it. But then this post goes on to say, otherwise, I play quick play because I don't like the commitment of ranked and how hard people play there and how serious they are. I play quick play to learn to get better at other characters, and I usually have enough time to encounter a problem and work around it after 3 to 5 deaths and overcome the problem I'm having, like changing playstyle, positioning, or how the game is 2 to 3 fights and over, and I can't learn from anything. I just make my mistakes and the game is then over. Quick play is there for you to make mistakes and learn from them, but making the timer so short is just making me make mistakes, and then the game is over. I think honestly that is valid feedback. We'll take a look at a couple of other comments here, then we'll jump on some other feedback, because it's super interesting, this is. And also I want your comments, guys, in the comments below, because if it, like, for me, my primary mode when I sit down and want to grind Overwatch is competitive. I don't sit there playing quick play. But if quick play is your mode, then you just can't play it anymore. Like, you've got to wait until the weekend's over, and the weekend is when you're back from work, when you're back from school, when you've got free time, when you want to enjoy it, and it's like, deal with this. It's so strange. Anyway, it's absolutely terrible. Maps can be over in 1 or 2 fights. Agreed, I use quick play to warm up before comp. If I wanted crazy ass game mode, I'd play Mayhem. Why would they force it and not let us choose? Casual play is ruined for the weekend. This mode makes trickling issue so much worse. I'm not sure it does. I don't know. I think it does help a little bit with that, but this comment, this sums it up. Because they want enough data, and if you make it opt-in, you don't get enough. Yeah, that is literally it. That's why we don't have experimental. Played one game and did not like it. Gave it a second chance, hated it more. I'm out. They're making this game a lot faster and overstimulating. Probably an addiction factor, but it really gives me a headache lately. It doesn't feel like the strategy FPS I loved, just more like every FPS on the market now. And, there have been discussions about the Call of Duty-fication of Overwatch going into Season 9 specifically with the passive health regen, because obviously that just changes the games in all kinds of different ways. Anyway, there's still more stuff we want to talk about here, so I want to jump over to competitive Overwatch. And again, the same question is asked here. What are your thoughts on quicker play so far? And this poster says, personally, I've played about 10 matches and I don't really like it at all. Respawning faster is nice at first, which might be what I'm suffering from. But I always like the length of Overwatch respawns because it made dying matter a lot more and push me to think about positioning and when to play safe versus aggressive, which again is great, valid feedback. Because if you can just YOLO in and instant respawn, well, where's the danger in dying? Like, just do whatever you like. Besides that, I just really don't like the pace of the game at all. Games are over way too fast. I agree with that, to get invested in. Very few ults end up being used. Yeah, which I guess is because the games are faster, right? So less ults. Some parts of the map don't even matter with how fast you blaze through them. That's also a very good point, especially on payload maps. Because, I mean, you're just payload's just gone. You don't expect it to move that fast, and it does. I end up playing more matches overall. I feel like I've played less of the game. I mean, that is a damning indictment there from this poster. Quick play is what I play most of the time, even though I have an interest in the competitive side. This mode actually made me queue up comp because of how much I wanted a normal feeling match again. Curious what everyone else thinks. So, again, we'll just take a look at some of the top posts here. So, I do not feel any higher levels of enjoyment from simply respawning quicker or pushing payloads quicker. If anything, it's made losses more frustrating. I don't like it. I feel like the devs didn't consider Flashpoint and Koth, where you may as well just pick Hog and camp the objective. There is no point in doing anything else. And then there's Payload, where a big thing for playing Dive on defense is the fact that you can leave the payload and abuse high ground. But now it's just camp point with Brawl Tank and win because it moves so fast. There's not enough time to dive unless you're Doom. Almost every match is a 2CP experience. You either snowball or get snowballed. Personally, new quick play is worse in every way. And you can see these, these posts are not like 10 upvotes. I mean, 250 upvotes is quite a lot, especially given the size of this subreddit. It's not the biggest one in the world. And it's like, whoa. We'll take a look at one more and then we'll jump over to another post before we end this segment of the video, I think. But like, I think it's super interesting, isn't it? I don't think I had a single game go over 5 minutes a day. Feels like the games are over before they even start. And in fact, I wonder how long my game was here. So it was 6 minutes long, if you guys can see that at the bottom there. But probably not actually from when the game started, because this would be, in the spawn. There's 40 seconds there. So, I mean, yeah, maybe this is literally a 5-minute game there. Flashpoint is awful. You get one fight after first cap. I had a game end in 3 minutes and 23 seconds. Other than that, it's surprisingly unoffensive. I still prefer normal, but it's not awful. If people really started building comps around stall, then it would be. Edit, since it's too late to go negative, yeah, normal Flashpoint sucks too. Okay, let's move on to another post. So this is going back to the main Overwatch Reddit, which is a much bigger Reddit. And like I said, it gives more of a sort of a wider perspective, a more realistic perspective, I guess, in a lot of ways you could say. So it says quicker play is simply too quick. So this is better quality feedback instead of just going, it sucks. They're explaining why. Kind of in the title, but they don't really expand too much. But they say this. It's really not as fun as it may sound. It becomes almost impossible to mount a reasonable regroup or adapt tactically because you can't manage to change ult on a swap before the round is over. Really not fun. Wish it weren't the only quick play option. Gonna have people pouring into competitive or playing other games. That's the other thing, isn't it? So, what do they say? Playing defense is a guaranteed defeat. The payload is just racing through the map. Okay. Okay. Yeah. They knew no. Hang on, what's this? They knew no. Not say. Oh, hang on. This particular experiment was designed to look at how these changes. The decision to make an extreme experiment to test a bunch of parameters and reactions. They probably know that people are going to sit this weekend of quick play out, whether by retreat into comp, arcade, or PvE. Okay, well, I don't know. Let's move on. Remember, this is Reddit. There'll be some posts which are. The Cake Toss says it's awful. You get shit stomped, but you have even less time to try and do anything about it. Or you roll the teams twice as fast. Yeah, I mean that's the other perspective, isn't it? It's complete chaos. Maps last 2 fights. No one expects Hanzo and Tracer to get 3 ults. 3 minute to get ults. 3-minute games and 3-minute queues. I feel like this mode amplifies the worst issues of Overwatch. Levers now mean you will definitely lose the game because backfill won't have a chance to do anything. Initial team composition can now actually decide games with you getting 1 to 2 ults during a round. There's particularly no reason to ever switch. And if you're hard counted, it's going to be GG. It absolutely encourages people to mindlessly throw themselves into a fight. Standing there and waiting when you practically need to touch in the next 4 seconds requires insane discipline. Playing slow and less mobile heroes is actually a liability because you get like twice the spawn out of something like Tracer or Sombra. Like, it's such a mindless clusterfuck. I hope they will never go beyond this experiment. And then we've got one more post because there's that many of these posts, right? We've just got to go through. There's just the reaction to this has been so ridiculous because they've just the only other time the game has changed in this way was the beta for Overwatch 2 when it was like, hey, by the way, it's 5v5. It's like, whoa, that was a massive change. Although arguably that was probably the best state Overwatch 2 has ever been in, which is something for another video maybe, or even a massive discussion. Anyway, thoughts on quicker play so far. These changes are not fun. Every match is just a stream of chaos so far. No need for any organized player to think because you can just zerg into fights from spawn over and over and over. It's the 2CP experience again. You either get snowball, you either snowball or you get snowballed. Personally, new quick play is worse in every way. And I think it's interesting when you see this type of feedback because it sort of encapsulates the idea that Overwatch, yeah, it's an FPS game, but it's also a game about strategy and team comp and how to engage and when to engage and things like that. But this quicker play mode is just like, forget that. Just get in there. Let's just go. And players are really reacting against that and are saying, like, no, this is not what we want from Overwatch. And it does make you think, doesn't it? What are the dev team doing if they wanted to, if they, you know, what was their idea behind these changes? It's honestly, it's who knows what's going on. Quantum Killer says, back to playing comp this week. Okay. Was open to whatever. About 20 games in, ready for it to go away. Don't even want it for a weekend. It feels like a joke mode or something. Makes no sense. Makes chasing, cleaning up fights useless. And you only get one team fight now per point half the time. Game has a lot of issues, and this does nothing to improve it, and it makes it significantly worse. I mean, that's... it effing sucks. This is the nicest thing I can say about it. I can't stand this new ADHD zoomer wave in games where you have action thrown at you every single second. I mean, hello. Overwatch was always like that, though. That was always the main complaint about Overwatch. There's too much going on the screen. Although I guess there were bits of downtime, but not that much, really, when you think about it. It's insane to me that people can't wait 10 seconds to respawn. Removing one tank served this express purpose, and now they're speeding the game up even faster. Why even bother? Just make the whole thing a team deathmatch with instant respawns, remove tanks from the game, and the gamer bros with fried dopamine receptors can truly enjoy the game. Oh yeah, I was going to actually jump onto this because this is a good segue into this, but I'll read the comment. They're adding self-heal passives to all classes, so we're already definitely on the way to the COD deathmatch. So this is the thing about the codification, isn't it, of the game, where, like, you know, everyone's got a passive now where they heal. You can just be even more independent and less dependent on your team. But then you had the game director saying they want the game to be focused on individual plays, but also team-based. It's like... Okay, I think we should move on from this, but it seems the reaction to this has been wild. So talking of the passive that everyone's going to get in Season 9, Aaron Keller is back to try and clean up some of the mess that was created yesterday. Again, through the messaging not being ideal, but I still do think the blog post was great, and I really like that sort of detail that they give, and the fact that he's willing to talk about things coming in the future as well. I think that's really cool to see, but some things you do need to expand upon. I mean, just not really giving us any data on the way this change is going to affect the game. Like, what is the heal rate going to be? Who knows? What are the other changes going to be with it? Who knows? Just saying things in isolation make them sound really bad. Overwatch players, fans, YouTubers, they all react like crazy to this. It's like, whoa. So you've got to be specific, I think, and that's kind of what they're suffering from. So what has happened here is Aaron says this, clarifying a few things with the self-heal. It's one part of a much larger set of changes coming to the game in S9. Internally, we're talking about and targeting some of these changes at damage spikiness in game, the role of DPS in securing kills, and the strength of healing. And then he goes on to say, it was a mistake to talk about this lone change out of context, since it's a part of a much bigger set coming to Season 9. Sorry for that, and I look forward to more discussion around S9 balance changes when we drop more details. And then this person says, we shall wait and see. For now, we complain. Such is the way of things. But this is the thing, right, with the whole idea of what is Overwatch? Again, this is like a philosophical debate, isn't it? Like, what is Overwatch? And what do you want to do with this game? And how can they evolve this game and move the game forward? And I'm worried that what they're trying to do is... Players are frustrated when they don't get healed in the game. So if we let them heal themselves, there'll be less frustration. Now, my argument to that would be, what players get frustrated when they don't get healed? Well, every player does, right? But newer players tend to get more frustrated, right? Because their supports won't know what the hell they're doing. Overwatch is a free-to-play game. You download this game and play it. They want you to keep playing the game. Now, one of the frustrating points will be, I'm playing the game, no one's healing me. Maybe I don't know where the health packs are on the map or whatever, and then I die. It's super frustrating. I don't like this, and I stop playing. I think there's a thing called attach rate. There's a thing called sort of, well, I guess attach rate does sum it up, where you've got this player and you want them to be attached to the game. You want them to become a user of the game, right? And if they're bouncing off it, how can you make it stickier? Well, this is one way of doing that, isn't it? But the issue is, this again, I feel, is a bit of a change in the direction of trying to capture a new audience instead of servicing the audience Overwatch has got, which I think has always been the issue with Overwatch 2, where they've been a bit too focused on trying to get the Valorant audience, the gamers who have never played any other FPS game, and it was the first game they played was Valorant. They want those, you know, and it still feels like that. Or even now, they're trying to get Call of Duty gamers because everyone's got a heal. So it is a bit worrying, right? And there is a good post here from Hawk. Hawk, a really good pro player, tank player as well. And look at what he says here. He says, we move further away from what I loved about the game. All of these changes promote no team play, deathmatch, and randomness. Overwatch 1 to 2 gameplay flow is unrecognizable. Overwatch 2 alphas and betas to today is unrecognizable. And it's true, right? But I think this is the takeaway here. Deathmatch and randomness and the reduction of team play. And this is what's been happening throughout Overwatch's lifespan. Overwatch with 6v6, it relied on more cohesion, and it was frustrating if someone decided to throw, especially if it was like a tank that just didn't want to play. It was super frustrating. So Blizzard go, you know what, we'll make this 5v5 and we'll make the game a bbit faster, a bit more FPS-y, but we want to keep its identity. And then through that period of development, the development team basically completely turns over, and then we have all the problems with Overwatch 2, blah, blah, blah. The game launches, and you know, we go through all the changes we've got now, and we start getting to this point now where we're seeing radical fundamental changes to the game that are very arguably pushing it in a very different direction. Like Hawk says, deathmatch and randomness, is that really what we want from Overwatch? I don't think we do. We want an FPS game that's also a tactical, hero-based, ability-based team game where we need to interlock our abilities to open up the enemy's defenses, and you know, all of that stuff, all the complexity of Overwatch. It is a super complex game. Instead, it's more of the, let's reduce this, and who knows what other changes they might bring in to make the game more conducive to a newer player. Because this is my worry, right? And I know this might be a bit over the top because we need new players. It's not like this is bad. It's like, oh no, we don't want new players in the game, get rid of them. It's not that. It's I play Overwatch because I like the skill expression of the game. If I want to play, for example, a Cassidy, I want to play Cassidy to get better at Cassidy, to get better with, you know, flick aiming, just my general aim and all of that stuff, and my positioning, because you get really punished with bad positioning with Cassidy, although he is one of the weaker DPS heroes right now. But imagine if they made things easier for Cassidy. Like, let's just go crazy. Imagine if they said, oh, well, now Cassidy, he's got homing bullets or something. So, oh, that's much easier. That's a stupid extreme example. But it's a way of dumbing the game down, right? There's probably a more, you know, finesse way of explaining that. But basically what I'm saying is, when you start obsessing over trying to capture players that maybe are bouncing off your game and not servicing the players you've already got, I think we've got to, that's a worry. And I kind of suspect that's what's happening here with some of these changes. But like I said, all of this could be a massive overreaction because we don't know what the other changes are. Like Aaron says over here, there are other changes. He doesn't explain what they are, but he says there are other changes coming as well. So with that context, it might make a lot more sense, and I'm sure we'll find out about those in the future. But even like looking at this comment here, when he says stuff about, you know, damage spikiness in the game, giving everyone a passive heal and reducing damage spikiness we might go into some like insane sustain meta, or not even a meta, but like a sustain Overwatch 2, where it is just straight up time to kill is so astronomically high now because everyone can run away and heal, and people are just doing less spike damage, so there's just fights go on forever. And what's actually happening in the game, it's a bit of a worrying time, to be honest, for the game. But yeah. So what about the mid-season patch? Okay, so this is Alec Dawson, and he's going to talk about what they've found so far about the patch. So this is patch 2.81 or 2.8.1, which is basically the mid-season patch that we're playing at the moment. And he addresses some of the changes. So he says, Orisa out of the basement, under 40% win rate, to being a lower-end tank. Ramatra are doing quite well across all rank thresholds. All tanks are within what we would deem acceptable performance-wise. So, seems to think tanks are okay now, and the Orisa buff to her literally having no damage fall off on primary fire is fine, hasn't really made a difference. So, you know, interesting. And then he goes on to say, Mauga. Still viable at most ranks, but falling more at higher rank thresholds. He was on the downside already as players began to play around him more effectively. Good amount of diversity, tanks especially. So this is an interesting one because you got to think what happened was Mauga got nerfed and he's still very playable. But also anti-nade got nerfed as well in this patch. So that was one of the more reliable ways of killing him. Now it's only 3 seconds instead of 3.5. So you can actually, it's harder to kill Mauga in a way. So it's kind of a little buff, but not really like an indirect buff. All the other changes were pretty heavy nerfs to him, but he's still quite effective. Because the issue with Mauga is peak Mauga gameplay, peak Mauga health regeneration is firing both weapons point blank into the enemy tank. And that will never change without some sort of rework to the hero. And that's a major problem because it means as soon as things start getting dicey, you just need to lock onto the enemy tank and just start shooting them. It's brain dead. But what I will say, Mauga does have really good moments where you're not firing at an enemy tank and you're alternating between primary and secondary fire trying to kill squishy targets. Because if you've got good aim, you really, really, good hit scan aim that is, get rewarded for playing Mauga in that way. But interesting. This might mean more nerfs are coming to Mauga down the line. But I think it's just a fundamental problem with the way the hero is designed. You just want to shoot the enemy tank for maximum regen. Number 4, he says, minor outliers are heroes that are due for more involved changes. Ball and Cassidy. They struggle slightly at higher ranks currently. Yeah. Future thoughts. Big shakeups are coming with Season 9. More on that soon. Shifting more of Mauga's power towards awarding aggression. Okay. While Sojin didn't... Okay, so this was a stupid change, the Sojin change. While Sojin's change didn't have a huge effect on performance, timing was off here. Didn't want to be too hesitant with sentiment management when we have changes, but missed. Right, so the problem here is, while this might not have had much of a difference, Sojin is the best DPS at higher ranks, right? When you can... Actually, she's quite good at all ranks, really. Okay. Anecdotally, I can say she's quite good at all ranks. If you can land a railgun shot, you're going to kill people, right? But obviously, better players got better aim. So she's one of those heroes that as you go up through the ranks, you just get Sojin, Sojin, Sojin. And then if you buff her, even though it's only really not it's not a massive buff, but that keeping the 25% railgun charge after you've gone over 25%, when it comes down to the decay, it'll only decay down to 25. It's still a buff, means faster railgun shots. And she still is one of the best, or the best, high-end DPS in the game. So, weird to buff. Not sure why they did it. But it's funny when he says, don't want to be too hesitant with sentiment management when we have changes, but missed. Yeah. Orisa also due for a look in terms of where her power budget is allocated, mainly for feel. So, maybe a little bit of a look there at Orisa in the future. Obviously, power budget is just, you know, like balancing a different... I guess like balancing a damage output, a movement, a tank ability, a sustain, all of that stuff. You have to, you know, it's a difficult balance. Overwatch is a difficult game to balance anyway. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so there we have it. Like I said, it will be a pretty long video. There was a lot to go over in this video. I want you guys to let me know what you think about quicker play and just what you think about the general direction the game seems to be going in. It's more of a faster game. Make the game faster. Give everyone more player agency through giving them the ability to self-heal, which is coming in Season 9. Again, with other changes, we don't know. Like I said, I think my sort of thoughts are this is a way of, like, they want to make the game more accessible to new players. They don't want them to play a match and then leave, or maybe not even finish a game and leave. They want them to think, okay, I can keep playing this game, but maybe that's going to impact everyone else. I don't know. I still think it is a can of worms if you add healing to every character, because like I said, there are certain heroes that really shouldn't have healing, and you can argue that the balance of them is based on them not having healing, and is in fact based on them using health packs on the map, like Tracer, like Sombra, whereas now they don't need that because they can just heal themselves. But again, we don't know the figures, which is the big issue here. If they came out and went, you know, oh, it's after 10 seconds of not being in combat and you regenerate 5 health per second, well, then you'd be like, well, that's just pointless. So it can't be that. It's got to be more. But what's it going to be? 20 health per second after 10 seconds, or after 5 seconds, 30, 40, 50? Who knows, right? Who knows where this is going? But, well, it is going to be less than the support passive, so we do know that at least. And then, yeah, we had like a recap from Alec on the balance of the game and that stuff. It still would be nice to get an overall sort of balanced direction of Overwatch. But again, I do feel like whenever they say anything, they will get pulled apart, because people are very passionate about this game, and it is a very complex game, and people like playing what they like playing, and the devs are trying to balance this thing of keep people playing the game, but also grow the game forward into the future. It's very difficult, isn't it? But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you think about all of this in the comments below, and I will catch you lovely lot on the next video. Catch you soon.